Hello everyone, my name is Wilken, and in this video I will be discussing a study I conducted alongside my colleagues Maier and Florian Dost on the benefits of consumer certainty. Consumer attitude is defined as the degree to which a consumer views a product as favorable or unfavorable. As you may know, consumer attitudes have a significant effect on consumer purchase behaviors. However, consumers can hold attitudes with varying degrees of conviction or strength. I could have a strongly negative attitude towards a certain brand, or I could have a slightly negative attitude, which could be turned positive with some influence. The level of attitude strength determines the degree to which a consumer's attitude is consequential. In other words, the likelihood that a certain attitude will result in congruent purchase behavior. Now, there is an important dimension of attitude strength that is involved in nearly every purchase decision, and that is uncertainty. In our research, we refer to two different kinds. Number one, uncertainty about a product's performance, and number two, uncertainty about the consumer's own preferences. These types of uncertainty are especially well reflected when we conceptualize willingness to pay as a range rather than a point. Ranges reflect this uncertainty. The bigger uncertainty, the bigger the range. In this study, we use the willingness to pay range concept to explore how variation in consumer certainty shapes willingness to pay as a measure of consumer behavior. Willingness to pay range is an interval that consists of a floor price and a ceiling price. The floor price is the price below which a consumer would buy with 100% certainty. The ceiling price, on the other hand, is the price above which a consumer would no longer buy, meaning there is a 0% purchase probability. In the interval between the floor and ceiling prices, consumers are indecisive about buying. The willingness to pay range is the difference between the ceiling price and the floor price. It indicates the degree of uncertainty, as I mentioned before. Now, let's explore the willingness to pay range in some more detail. Previous research has shown that certainty has a positive effect on consumers' willingness to pay. In other words, a higher level of certainty will result in a higher willingness to pay. We can also think about this from the opposite angle. Consumers are risk-averse and fear overpaying. Additionally, we know that when buyers face performance uncertainty, they tend to focus more on the potential negative features of a product and disregard its positive ones. To compensate for this risk, or in other words, this higher uncertainty, they discount a product's value. This is called the risk effect, and it leads to a lower willingness to pay. Now, let's move on to some more details about our study. We established three hypotheses, which I will refer to as H1, H2, and H3. H1 states that increased consumer certainty increases floor prices. To clarify, the floor price is the threshold that reflects the danger of underperformance. It is the point at which consumers start doubting the performance of a product relative to its price. If a consumer is uncertain about receiving their money's worth, he or she will likely lower their floor price. So in other words, we argue that the more certain a consumer is, the higher their floor price will be. H2 states that changes in certainty affect the floor price more strongly than they do the ceiling price. This is due to consumers' larger focus on risk and underperformance, which is reflected in floor prices, than overperformance, which is reflected in ceiling prices. Finally, H3 suggests that the stronger shift of the floor price due to increased certainty leads to a reduction in consumers' willingness to pay ranges. This range-reducing effect of certainty is called the range effect. Now, let's move on to some more details about our research. We performed 5 studies with a total of over 25,000 participants. Studies 1 and 2 both tested the effects of product performance uncertainty. In study number 1, participants considered a bottle of red wine. We manipulated the product reviews so that they were either very centered or very polarized within the traditional 5-star rating. After the manipulation, we asked participants to state their floor and ceiling prices. Finally, we determined the product's selling price through a lottery. If the lottery price was located below a participant's floor price, they were required to purchase the wine. In study number 2, participants considered a digital compact camera. To manipulate product performance uncertainty, participants encountered different numbers of reviews associated with the product. One group had 52 reviews to look through, the other just 2. In addition, we manipulated the review valence. Average review scores were either very positive with a 4.5-star average or quite negative with a 2-star average. Once again, we then asked participants to state their floor and ceiling prices. Study number 3 tested the effects of consumer preference uncertainty. In an online survey, participants encountered 2 competing tablet computers, both within a medium to high price range. They were asked to select their favorite of the 2. After this self-selection, participants were assigned to one of 2 groups. The first group received press clippings about their chosen product. These were specifically selected to make participants question their choice. The other group did not receive any additional information, so their preference uncertainty remained unchanged. Finally, both groups stated their floor and ceiling prices. Study number 4 examined certainty manipulation by media messages. We used existing data taken from large-scale surveys that accompanied 3 real multimedia advertisement campaigns. These campaigns had been executed during a period of 14 weeks. We conducted one survey wave in the first 2 weeks of the campaign and another one week after the campaign was over. Participants were asked to indicate for each product whether or not they remembered the various campaign media types and if they had tried the product. As in all other studies, they then indicated both their floor and ceiling prices. Our 5th and last study manipulated certainty with product testing at the point of purchase. We approached people on the street and invited them to participate in a mulled wine tasting. Before tasting the wine, participants read a set of reviews and were asked to state their floor and ceiling prices. After that, they were allowed to taste the product. We then measured their floor and ceiling prices a second time. The actual mulled wine was inferior to the quality we initially promised to the participants. This allowed us to exclude potential overperformance effects. Now, let's jump to a synthesis of the empirical results. The results overall support the various hypotheses. Our key finding is that certainty does indeed have asymmetrical effects on floor versus ceiling prices. Due to fear of underperformance, increased certainty increases consumers' floor prices. Ceiling prices, on the other hand, remain relatively stable. This effect leads to reduced willingness to pay ranges, reflecting increased certainty. So it is evident that the effects of certainty on willingness to pay are quite nuanced. For this reason, we also find support for the effectiveness of the willingness to pay range concept. Without this, capturing the asymmetrical effects of certainty would be impossible. Now, what are the managerial implications of these findings? Well, it's essential for managers to find ways to increase consumer certainty, especially regarding product performance risk. Marketing mix instruments such as incentives for positive product reviews or word of mouth can reduce uncertainty. However, activities that allow consumers to have direct sensory contact with the product, such as product testing, would be the most effective. Finally, managers can try to influence consumers' floor prices at the point of purchase. This can be done by using informational advertising, product testimonials, or other specific selling mechanisms. If you would like to read the complete research paper, I've included the link in the description below. You can also access other research I have collaborated in through that same link. Thank you for watching.